What's up guys, it's Will here, back again, and today we're here to review the Nyrin Studios Attack on Titan Levi Ackerman figure. I am a huge fan of the Attack on Titan anime series, Levi Ackerman being my favorite character from the series and one of my favorite characters across all of storytelling. I knew I had to bring this one home, but since it's unlicensed, is it actually good quality? Well, today we find that out. But before we get started, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you're notified when content goes live here. Thanks to 16kit for selling me this figure. If you're looking for third-party figures, make sure to check out the link in the description below and use my code WillFox for $10 off any order. That said, let's get into it. Nyrin Studios elected to go with basic packaging here. The front of the box has a Scouts logo surrounded in multiple shades of blue, along with a Levi Ackerman title card in the bottom middle section. The back of the box has the figure label Titan 001, indicating there may be more figures to come from this line, and the internal packaging has two layers. Top layer is the figure, head sculpts, hands, and some ODM blades, and the bottom layer is the ODM gear, display base, and Levi's Scout cloak. Overall, the packaging gets the job done, but it does feel very basic and cheap. I went ahead and installed Levi's ODM gear and put the blades in his hand because I think that's the look that most collectors are going to go for. You can see here just standing straight up and down, it looks pretty solid. I like the tailoring on this figure, the head sculpts are pretty solid. Not crazy about the visible seam in terms of alternating those faceplates. From a side angle view, that's always going to be on display. The proportions are pretty good, as is the tailoring. I think the cloak does a lot to hide any deficiencies in the proportion department. The head sculpt looks a little bit large without the cloak on, but you throw that cloak on and everything looks dandy. So this happens with some Hot Toys figures as well. If you remove the outer layer of the clothing, the proportions sometimes look a little bit off. They look out of proportion, but there's quite a lot to like about this figure and also quite a lot to dislike, which we'll talk about. But for now, I just wanted to give you guys a brief sneak peek. So let's go ahead and take a look at the figure in hand and see what our thoughts are there. All right, guys, so here is our first in-hand look at the Nyrin Studios Captain Levi Ackerman figure from, of course, the famous manga Attack on Titan and subsequently the anime Attack on Titan. I'm a fan of the anime, as many of you know by now. I have the Prime 1 Attack on Titan Levi versus Beast Titan on pre-order, and Levi has become one of my favorite characters in all of storytelling. So overall, I do think there are more pros than cons with this figure, which we'll go into. But the first pro that I really want to talk about in hand is the likeness. I think that overall, they captured Levi's likeness. The paint applications are a bit flatter because this is an anime figure. They did not in any way try to make it more lifelike or realistic, so it's probably not going to blend in with your Hot Toys figures as well or in-art figures. You're probably going to have to put this in a video game and anime display, which I'll be doing, or put it in its own anime display that's going to be separated from your lifelike figures, because I just think it's not going to fit in as seamlessly. Tailoring, pretty good. I do think the jacket could be a slightly darker shade of brown, but I do think overall the proportions and tailoring are pretty strong. The body on this figure actually feels fairly substantial. It doesn't feel like a janky, sort of rough third-party body. But I do think overall that is fine. We'll put the cloak on him in a little bit. Let me just tell you, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. The hook is very poorly designed, but we will get it on him nonetheless. The one thing I do want to show you early is you have a visible seam here on the back, and that is because there are 3 included faceplates that you can detach from the back of the head sculpt, and you can adjust the eyes. There are those levers right there. You can move the eyes around, and you have a magnet, as you can see, that pops right back on here. And boom, the head sculpt is locked and loaded, ready to go. And again, this is sometimes why I'm skeptical of third-party figures. Already the magnet has come unglued on my Levi here. I'm gonna go ahead and glue this magnet back in, and this has happened to me with in-art figures, to be fair, but I do hate some QC issues right off the bat, and we're already experiencing something. So for this faceplate, I went ahead and gave Levi a little bit of a side-eye look. I don't see too much of a difference from the other one that I just showed you, but you know, again, you can adjust the eyes to separate them any way that you wish. I mean, yeah, this still looks good, but again, I don't really see the necessity for including this one when you already have the other one. They look very similar to me, maybe slightly different expressions, but nothing I feel like to warrant an extra faceplate. I mean, I'm happy to have more stuff than not, but I'm not sure if I'd be using this if it really differs all that much from the original. But yeah, it still looks good. All the same things are still present. So okay, now we're talking. So we got blood paint applications on this head sculpt, and I think this head sculpt is clearly the winner. This is the one that I'm going to have on my Levi Ackerman figure. This thing is awesome. It's distinct from the other two. It gives Levi a badass look because he's a Titan Slayer. The dude is an absolute unit on the battlefield. He's like a cheat code. So when he fights the female Titan and of course Zeke the Beast Titan, things get pretty wild. And of course the fight with Kenny is probably one of the best scenes in all of anime from what I've told. And when I watched it, I was pretty blown away by it. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm getting distracted here. The paint applications with the blood are really cool. Hair is all the same. Again, same seam. This one is the one. This is it. So now that we've seen each of Levi's 3 distinct faceplates, I want to show you his ODM gear. So you have plastic ODM gear on the brown parts here. And of course, these are going to attach to the figure. More on that later. And of course, you have wires running to attach to the rest of the ODM gear, which are very fragile. You are going to want to be careful with those. We're going to attach this in a little bit, but first I just want to show you how this actually looks. You do have metal blades. These appear to be die cast to me. They feel very cold to the touch. They slide in and out on the ODM gear and you can push them back in. Really, really cool stuff. So the ODM gear, I think it's probably going to be a pain to attach to the figure. We're going to figure that out as we go. But I do like how these look. Paint applications are strong. You can feel the plastic, even hear the plastic elements, but they're going to look good on display. So far so good with these, but attaching them will be the fun part. So what we have here is more accessories, weapon accessories that attach to the ODM gear. These are actually the blade portion. So you're going to slide a blade right in the top here, have Levi gripping right here as if he's holding his sword for his ODM gear. And this is going to actually attach to the gear itself. It has a wire attached on each end. There are 2 of these, so you attach one on each side. But yeah, the installation process is not going to be fun, but you can see the paint applications are pretty strong here. They are plastic pieces with that wire. Do be careful installing it, as I mentioned, but yeah. Let's keep moving. So what we have here are 2 included spare sets of hands. So you have a relaxed set of hands and a combat sort of aggressive set of hands here. You have a gripping set of hands that are pre-installed on the figure. I don't think I'm going to be changing those all that much just because those are the ones that are going to be gripping the weapons for the ODM gear with the blades. So we're probably going to be using that for most of this video. Paint applications are pretty strong. What I find interesting is that they look very lifelike, very human and realistic, whereas the head sculpt looks very flat and very anime. So that contrast it's not too jarring on the figure, but it is jarring when you look at it outside of the figure, if that makes sense. It's an interesting choice. I'm wondering why they didn't just go flat all around or more lifelike all around, but a little bit of a discrepancy there, but not a huge deal. Super exciting, I know, but this is the included display base. This is cheap third-party assery. I really would have liked to have seen a Levi Ackerman display base. I guess we're just gonna have to go custom for that. This is just a black standard base with a black crotch grabber. No flight stand included, so if you want to put Levi in a flying pose, which he's known to do, considering he's wearing ODM gear swinging around, not gonna happen with this figure, unfortunately, or with this base. So for me, yeah, base is a miss. I mean, to keep the price down, sure, but I guess I'm gonna have to go custom. All right, guys, so now we're looking at Levi's cloak. What I really like about this cloak to start, fully wired. Wired hood, wired down the fronts, wired down the bottom, everything is wired. You get a wire, everyone gets a wire. What I also really like, the patch on the back for the Scouts. I think the Scouts logo looks, high end. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks realistic. It looks like the real cloak. What I absolutely hate about this is this hook system. It is absolute ass. It is terrible. It doesn't really want to go in there and sit very nicely. You have to really fudge with it quite a bit to get it to work. It's just not a good system. It's not well designed. There's no actual hook on the other side. You have to slide this hook underneath the other one, but this one's stitched in. So it's just a huge pain in the ass. I don't like it. It's a bad system, and they should have done better with this. So I like the cloak. I'm going to be using it, but fuck that hook. And what we have here are the instructions, and I hate to sound negative, but I don't like these. You have pictures included. None of this is translated into English, so you don't really get any detailed instructions on what's going on. You do have some pictures explaining kind of the gist of it, but it's a little bit more complicated than what these pictures indicate. If you've ever assembled furniture before, having something that details what exactly you're supposed to do is nice. But yeah, all of that, different languages, unfortunately. This is an unlicensed product. These companies have to know the product is going to make it worldwide. So I don't like this corner cut insofar as the instructions are concerned. Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound negative, but there are some things I don't like about this package. My feelings towards this figure are complex. It's akin to a toxic relationship. When times are good, they're really good, and you're feeling like you're on top of the world. When times are bad, you feel like you could curl into the fetal position and just never buy another collectible again. This Levi Ackerman figure is the definition of a shelf queen. Fragile does not even begin to describe the nature of this figure. I experienced several damages to my figure during the installation process, which is far from painless. My ODM gear snapped at the back, a strap came unpinned, a pleather strap on the front of the harness snapped off, a piece of the hair came unglued, the magnet in the head arrived unglued, the metal clamp on the cloak came off, and this has just been the worst experience I've ever had with a 1/6 scale figure from a quality control perspective. Thank God for 1/6 Kit communicating the damages with Nyren Studios for me, and my friend Richard, who has completed several repairs to even make this figure displayable in my collection. My experience may be isolated, but I've already had 2 separate collectors reach out to me complaining about similar QC issues, which albeit is anecdotal, but concerning nonetheless. The other thing I don't like about this figure though is the visible head sculpt scene. This is a split head sculpt, meaning you magnetically attach a front faceplate to the back portion of the sculpt. From side views, this creates an unsightly line at the connection point. I understand this is a trade-off to have different faceplates, but I'd prefer complete sculpts with accessible back plates to adjust the eyes. Speaking of the eyes, they are adjustable in all 3 sculpts. Love that. This should be standard for every figure moving forward, third party or otherwise. It adds so much versatility in how you display your figure. Speaking of displaying your figure, if you want to get this figure to pose him in some dynamic fight pose, because this is Levi after all, think again. The ODM gear is heavy and cumbersome, and you could easily have something snap, fall off, or just simply create a whole slew of issues for yourself if you move this figure too much. This is why this video will not consist of dynamic poses. I just don't feel comfortable putting the figure at risk and subjecting myself to further torture if additional damages occur. Even if a flight stand was included, I'd be hesitant to use it due to the weight of the ODM gear. Caution is advised. While the cloak is fully wired and looks pretty good, the system for connecting it is the worst I've ever seen. There's a small hook that simply slides under a metal clamp on the other side, and if your air conditioning turns on, it will probably come loose. It's incredibly unstable and just simply a poor design. A button system, or maybe even magnets, or just simply a better hook system was needed here. Now that I've been so negative, let's go over the positives. This figure looks good on display. The attention to detail is actually pretty solid. The likeness to Levi is good, and I particularly love the bloody head sculpt. This one is an absolute home run. I also feel the outfit is pretty well done. Despite the fact that pleather is used all over the place, it looks good nonetheless. I also like that the blades are die-cast. They slide into the ODM gear nicely and into the handles nicely as well. Using die-cast here was a good choice. Summing things up to you, does this figure look good? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not super high quality, but it's good. But is it riddled with fragility, poor design choices, and likely QC issues? Also yes. This is why this figure will look good on my shelf, but it's been one long headache to get there. Figure collecting is supposed to be fun, and this isn't fun. And that's why I'm giving Nyren Studios Levi Ackerman a 6.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you're notified when content goes live here. See you in the next review.